And we're live on the Metal Lab. It is Monday, Monday, Monday. We took a week off last week to recover from Memphis, and that's what a lot of today is going to be. Is about story time from Memphis. I know I've shared a little bit on other shows, but that's so that Mike had more time. I thought I was going to have more people, but it's just me and Mike today. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So before we get into Memphis, how's your week in HeroClix been? The week since Memphis.
Um, it was okay. It was an interesting week. So Thursday night, what was the build Thursday night? Oh,
Release
we
it.
were lucky. Yeah, we were lucky up here in Canada that we actually still got our product this week. So we still had release for animated X-Men. We're number one. We're number one. Canada rules. Yeah, we don't get to say that stuff very often.
No.
Many times we're behind the curve, so that was kind of a welcome treat. I am between shows right now. I go back to the next show, Baroness von Sketch, in a week. So Thursday night, I could actually go to an event, and it was extra cool because at our local venue, well, the downtown local venue, 401 Games, a certain celebrity from HeroClix unboxing video showed up.
I
Mr.
was right
Scott.
here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. A real slip. No, just. Oh, wait a minute. I want to keep my job on the show, don't
That's
I?
all good.
I take it all back. Yeah, Mr. Scott Porter is in town working on a Netflix series, and he decided to come by 401 Games. He and Mr. Jay Solomon there apparently chat here and there on the HC Realms, and he's asking him rule questions and things like that. So he said, you should come out, and Scott did, and it was awesome. Scott is exactly like he is in the videos. He loves clicks. He loves talking about it. He loves talking about the comics and what inspired him. Really nice guy. It was a lot of fun to chat with him about clicks. I unfortunately didn't get to play a game with him. I didn't get matched up against him in the tournament. But good on him for he pulled a lot of acolytes in his boosters, and he actually built like a pretty big acolyte team. I think he ended up with like 7 figures on his team. It was fantastic. So good for you for doing that, Scott. His team looked like a lot of fun. And again, I'm a little disappointed I didn't face off against it. I ended up with a pretty simple team. I went with Juggernaut at 200 points, Mesmero, and Toad. So I had a 290-point Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I like that Juggernaut. And when we're talking about Memphis, I'll explain a little more why I like that Juggernaut. It was fun. It was fun to play it. My dice were horrifically bad in my first game. I couldn't make anything happen, and I was fading Onslaught. Our buddy Sean Chu managed to come out. He hasn't been able to play in a while, so he came out, and he's a great player, even when he's been on the shelf for a while. And for him to pull Onslaught, well, if anybody's had an opportunity, anybody who was at Worlds playing in those battle royals, I think you understand how obnoxious Onslaught can be. Let's just move, and I've got 9 range, and I ignore all kinds of stuff, and I'm just going to mind control you to beat up your own team. So, it was painful. The second round, I got a bye, unfortunately, so I had to sit there and watch other games happen. And then the third round, I played Jay and Jay Solomon, and funnily enough, my dice went the complete opposite direction, and I found a wonderful, beautiful world where when you roll 10s or higher on almost every one of your attack rolls with a Brotherhood team, and especially with the new Brotherhood trait, where you basically get to heal when you remove tokens. Also, when you win map roll and you end up on a map with a bunch of blocking, well, I got to pick the side that had more blocking. And you've got that Juggernaut at 200 points who's also clearing tokens running through blocking terrain, and he's clearing tokens when he's rolling 10s or higher, and he's healing when he removes tokens. Yeah. Jay didn't enjoy that game.
We lost camera there, Mike. If you might need a quick.
I got to do that thing again where I go like this,
off.
and then it comes back again.
There it is.
Hi, hey, everybody. At least the audio stayed, I hope.
Oh, yeah, the audio was all there.
So yeah, that was really gross, and it made me really want to try to find a way to break Brotherhood a bit. If there's a way to consistently take tokens off of people, that would be pretty gross. It was a lot of fun. Jay didn't find it as much fun, which made me have even more fun. Yeah, and that was it. So it was a fun little event. We got to open product. I was mediocre about what I necessarily pulled, but I did actually buy some more extra boosters while I was there. Got some rares that I needed, a couple of super rares I needed, and I even pulled the second Black King Chase on a random pull. So it was a nice day for us to drown in all the lovely product that we had. Beautiful product, all for Canada. And yeah, seeing Scott was a lot of fun, and he's in town for a couple months, so he might be coming back for more games. So that was pretty cool. And then yesterday was a month 3 Regenesis event at Comic Book Addiction out in Whitby. I love going there. Again, if I lived closer, that would be my local venue. I'd be there all the time. I love their events. I love how they run things. What was super cool when I got there is Ryan Hickey, who sometimes judge, sometimes player there. He came out to me and he gave me this awesome little custom that he made of Moon Knight with a cap shield and a Spidey glove and some claws, Wolverine claws. Funnily enough, he didn't actually see the show where we were doing the dial, so he didn't realize. He just knew I loved Moon Knight, and he was like, hey, this is from the storyline when Cap and Spidey, and it was just kind of funny because I'm like, yeah, I know that storyline. That's pretty awesome. So thanks, Ryan. That's really cool. I appreciate that. He's giving me lots of custom Moon Knight stuff now, so I should tell people all the time how much I love Moon Knight. This is paying off. Thanks, guys. So it was month 3. I was in the lead for my faction there for whatever reason. More people had picked Cyclops over Wolverine, and so I had won the month 1 event, and I finished like mid-pack in month 2. But again, for whatever reason, not a lot of Wolverine faction people, so I was in a good position to win the overall thing for that faction. My pulls, man. If I get another Kitty Pryde, I swear to God, especially because I've said it before, Wolverine is broken in this format. He's just super broken. And I made jokes about playing multiple Wolverine teams. Yeah, well, there were people who did it. James McCaster was my first game, and he had 2 Wolverines, 2 Beasts, and a Gambit. I ended up having to play Wolverine, the only Wolverine I had all the way from back in month 1, 2 Gambits and 2 Kitty Prydes was my amazing, awesome 400-point team of suck. So my first game was against James, and I did everything right. I picked the inside sort of map with that middle bit of elevated, and I actually was throwing objects and making triple attacks on one of the Wolverines. I got him all the way down to that second stop click, and then what stopped was my dice. It just nothing worked after that, and then when it did, he'd roll super senses, and it was painful. I took some points. He took more points. He won that game. It really didn't matter after that because I knew like I wasn't going to win this thing, and I just kept praying that I wasn't going to face off against multiple Wolverines again, and I didn't. I faced Ryan Hickey next. I can't even remember exactly what his build was. He decided to forego real theme, and they were allowing people to actually use the prize guys, the LE. So I think he had like that prize Death Gambit on there and the prize Wolverine on there. He had a weird mix of stuff. Dice were hard, man. I almost lost my Wolverine. He put Wolverine on his last click with Angel, Kitty Pryde, like he just Lockheed, like everything he wanted to do on this one turn worked. He put Wolverine all the way into his last click, but time got called, and I had actually scored enough points, so I eked out a win in that game miraculously. So Yeah, I don't even know how that happened. And then in my last game, much the same. I was facing off against Matt Ryan. He had Cyclops, Namor, Iceman, and Warbird, right? Warbird, yeah.
Yeah.
I always want to say Deathbird, but that's not Death. It's Deathbird's the other one.
No.
So he just wanted to play figures that he liked. I think that's no offense. I think that's a mistake for sure in this format. Everybody knows that you've got to play either Utopia or you've got to play Jean Grey School. And by that, I mean, you've got to play Jean Grey School with as many Wolverines as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
It's a broken format that way. So really, I believe that's part of how I managed to win that game because he was a little bit limited in what he could do. He had some bad rolls. He threw Namor in at one point and double tokened him on a miss. And I just swarmed him I had a Gambit and then a full Top Dog Wolverine plus a Kitty Pryde with an object in her hand. So, I mean, she's 11 attack, 4 damage with a light object. Is nothing to sneeze at, So I did 3 attacks on him and basically ruined Namor in one turn. So I won that game. So I ended up 2-1 at the end of it all. But again, I'm so glad I didn't have to face more Wolverines. Emily, she played 3 Wolverines and a Beast. Yeah, it was gross. It was gross. Basically, every game of Wolverine, eventually you'll face off another Wolverine, and every single game ends like this. Wolverine versus Wolverine, and you're trying to roll 8s. It's always an 8, and you need it 2 times in a row.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Every single time you need 2 successful hits. If you don't get 2 successful, whether they super sense 1 or you miss 1 or whatever, no one dies, and you just repeat that for like 20, 25 minutes. He's so broken for this format. I'm sad for this. He's kind of ruining the fun of Regenesis. He really is, because you just have to pray that you're the one who gets 2 or 3 Wolverines.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. So anyway, again, lucky for me that most people didn't pick the Wolverine faction at this venue. I finished with the most points, both record on the day for the faction and over the 3 months. I had the most points for the faction, so I won the Wolverine prize and I won the Archangel LE. So it was a nice day for that. We got to buy a couple of extra boosters. I pulled nothing but commons and 1 rare. And meanwhile, Emily pulled like 3 rares. And then she went and bought a booster of animated X-Men and pulled the super rare Prime Storm.
I saw that.
So, holy cow, Emily, golden child. Which I mean, I'm jealous, but I'm happy because Emily's super awesome. The smiley face killer. She deserves good things, so congrats to her for that. And congrats to CBA. It was a good day of clicks.
I think she needs to play that from now on, which might stop her from playing the Vulture.
Yeah, right? From one prime to another prime. And congrats to James McCaster for winning the overall 3 months event with the most points out of all factions and winning it for Cyclops, proving Cyclops was right.
Sure. Honestly, I've also had a very busy week in HeroClix, but most of it relegated to the weekend. Both related to X-Men animated release events, because like Mike said, we up here in Canada, we're blessed with the actual release date. So Saturday we played at the Comic Warehouse, and much like Mike said about Sean Chu, we all know the horror that is Onslaught. And I pulled Onslaught, so I played Onslaught. And I pulled Onslaught, Colossus, the super rare one. What else did I play with? Scanner, Amelia Vote, and Assassin's Guild ended up being my team. My first game was up against one scary little character in that Magneto, the rare 2x2 base Magneto. Did you know at 200 points he starts with because it's Colossal Retaliation? So my goal this game was to mind control my opponent was Patrick. We've mentioned him a few times, Patrick Chow. My goal in this game was not to attack or not to incur the wrath of the Colossal Retaliation of Magneto as best I could. So I would mind control all of his other figures to attack his other figures. At about mid-game, I had scored a Friends of Humanity with his Callisto. Because I was finally exposed to be able to, or he finally exposed the Friends of Humanity, or the Callisto to be able to be attacked, or to be mind controlled. So, lucky for me on that one, I was able to score those 10 points, and that was the only points that got scored in the game. But Patrick did come in a little hot to try to get me off my game. Came in with a running shot pulse wave with the Magneto, which hit my Assassin's Guild and Onslaught. So 1 damage each, which I then pulled back to Colossus and used the X-Men team ability to heal off of, and then used Amelia Vote to pull my 2 Acolytes in Scanner and Colossus up to base Magneto and try to bring the fight to him. I think I was pretty close on Magneto, but I was in a very dangerous spot, and I think time was getting close, so I had to back off and not die at the last second, and just mind control things to try to do the damage with his team from there on in. Couldn't get any more kills, but won that one with 10-0. Round 2, player was it was Ryan Bell, player who comes in and out of the game on a regular basis. Very good player, and we like to call him the Golden Pull because he pulled the Chase Sebastian Shaw, which was part of his team. Sebastian Shaw, Wolverine, Beast, and Cyclops, the uncommon. My goal was to try to mind control him and beat him with his own team, which didn't work at first. I made like my mind control rolls were hot, but the attacks after the fact were not so hot. So I was getting a little nervous getting into that. But eventually I was able to whittle down his team to Sebastian Shaw and just smart play around it and not die to what he had. And then in the 3rd round, played against Alex, who had a Professor X who was doing a lot of damage for him until he played against me, because Professor X has Outwit, Incapacitate, Psychic Blast, and Mind Control, and Onslaught is immune to Outwit, Psychic Blast, Incapacitate, and Mind Control. So he had to try to get his Professor X down to a low click to try to do damage, but then he also had the hard chore of getting Professor X close to Onslaught. So unfortunately, he had a full figure basically nullified by Onslaught in that case, and I just mind controlled all his other stuff and beat up Professor X with that. And he had a Green Dragon Puff on his team as well, which is a great figure until you're throwing light objects at a bunch of people with invulnerable, because what's great about Colossus's defend is that when he shares his defense, characters he's sharing with get invulnerable. So throw those light objects. I don't care. And yeah, so I was able to kind of to beat on Alex for that one. I got 2nd place because that first round 10-0 win didn't put me particularly high in points, and player Chris was also undefeated, so 2nd place was okay. I still got my Savage Land Magneto out of that. And then on Sunday we started a brand new store, Dolly's, which is actually just walking distance from my place here in Mississauga, which we ended up having 6 players, Amber and my daughter included, Super Lex we've seen her in, but brand new players, one of which won, young man named Jack. And so congrats to him, and it was great time to play at Dolly's, and hopefully we can get the community growing more and more. We're going to be running Sundays at like 2 in the afternoon in Mississauga, so as not to interrupt anything in 401, and if there's a big thing, we'll keep things quiet. You know what I mean? So yeah, overall, I mean, I had a very busy week in HeroClix after an already busy week, which we're about to talk about here. Right? So oh, man. Memphis, I know I've talked a little bit on other shows, but what a great time, eh, Mike? Oh, he's chewing. But yeah, overall, you know, I can't say enough how awesome it is that WizKids was able to run their own event so successfully. And I really hope that this is the future of the game for us, to be honest.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really good that it wasn't part of another convention, another event. All WizKids all the time. It was great to have a focus like that. Honestly, it felt like the most well-run day of tournament play or weekend of tournament play ever. Everything really started on time, was efficient, and yeah, it was a fantastic time. I loved it.
Yeah. A couple quick numbers for those who were wondering how many would be in attendance when we're talking about things. For the team seal, there were 69 teams. So one team ended up with a bye, but I mean, 69 teams. That's multiply that by 3. That's 207 players playing in Team Worlds, and 115 qualified for Worlds the next day. And while all this was running, the Battle Royale tables were full.
Rammed.
Like, at some point, like at one point, they had to tell everybody, hold on, we are full on Battle Royales. We need to let these all get going, and then we'll let you all start buying in again.
Well, that was the Sunday, right? Because
Yeah.
once we got to the Sunday, all we had was the top 8 left from singles. So everybody else who was still there was raring for Battle Royal. So people came, rather than have them all line up, they gave out tickets to the people who were there early. So when you showed up, it was like, wow, it's 10 o'clock. There's no line. This is awesome. This is great. It was, whoa, whoa, whoa. You see these 10 tables over there full of people? Yeah, that's actually the line. We're going to deal with that. It's like, oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Oh,
So,
my.
yeah. In the future on the Sunday, we're not going to be as casual as we were.
No. Well,
So-
I mean, it depends on how much of a rush we were. We know so many people and met so many people while we were down there. We had a lot of time to socialize with some of these new friends and watch some games in the top 8. You know, great players are playing in them. So,
yeah, it was definitely a great weekend for that overall vibe of like being competitive for a while, playing some fun games, battle royals yourself, and then also watching and talking about HeroClix and absorbing all of that kind of aspect of it. And then on top of that too, we've made a lot of good friends now through Clicks. You know, a lot of people from different parts of North America, really. And they're always raring to do other stuff and try other stuff, try board games like the board game nights with the Jersey Boys, which is a lot of fun. I love trying out other stuff. Keeps your mind really fresh. Thanks again to those guys. And yeah, it's just a really, I think in general, if we're there and we're interested in this type of material, then we're sort of already in a wheelhouse of things. And it's nice that people can then share more interests that aren't just HeroClix.
yeah, absolutely. And also the Jackbox party games, so fun. Quiplash, what a treat.
Totally. I snuck that win at Scott right at the last second there. That was awesome.
Poor Scott got so many attack wing jokes thrown at him. Another highlight, of course, if anybody got a chance to watch our social media and WizKid's social media, we had a chance to get an early preview of the Mixed Match Challenge starter set. And we got a chance to play with me and Scott played with it on camera. We went straight into the ring and played with the rules of the ring and everything like that, just right off the bat, just so as to get a quick game through. And what a lot of fun that stuff was. And the new powers are really cool. The new WWE powers are going to be a lot of fun to really make work and add to your collection of things. And I like the way that the wrestling ring works. It's similar in an idea, but different in execution as the boxing ring. So, yeah, just in general, a good time throughout the entire weekend. But let's get to the nitty gritty of it. Team Worlds. So, Mike, let's talk about yours and Tom's team, and then let's try to talk about mine.
Wow, much like we talked about anyway, and much like you guys went over when you were doing your video, you know, we were looking at theme, and we were building theme, and you know, really it came down to we had 2 juggernauts. We pulled 2 juggernauts, and it was really hard not to look at Juggernaut. And then it was a whole, well, is he better at 200 or is he better at 300? Is he better at 200 or is he better at 300? So we said, you know what, stop. You're both right. Tom decided that he would play him at 300, and I went with a 200-point Juggernaut so that I could make a Brotherhood theme team because we know how much I like theme. So I threw Amelia Voigt and the Danger Room Magneto onto that team. And yeah. We'll get to that in a second. And then what was hard is we had like all these elements we had all the elements of what should be a good team, right? We had like an outwit, and we
Mm-hmm.
had, I think, TK and a perplex
Mm-hmm.
and prob, and like we had all the elements there with all these other mishmash of figures. And of course, Mr. Collins was, hey, it's a hot mess of stuff. I should play that. I mean, who doesn't play hot messes better than me? And yeah, it's really weird because it really looked like it should have done more.
It was missing one important element:
Prob.
probability control.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was stuck with every dice roll I made. I made a lot of dice rolls, and there are some stories from some of these rounds that are they're just heartbreaking in some cases. The first round was just a heartbreaker right out of the gates when I saw my opponent's team. Your first round was
Oh, what was it again? I'm still trying to remember. That's why it's so long ago, and I should have made notes.
while you're thinking about it. My team consisted of Krakoa at 70 points, Sasquatch at 50, so we had a little bit of outwit, along with a Chase White Queen, Spiral, and the Rachel Summers Phoenix, and that was about it. It was those five figures. And so, like, Rachel Summers had TK to do whatever I needed to do in that case. White Queen and Sasquatch were both outwitting. And, it's really great when you have outwit, running across every single team with Power Cosmic.
Yeah, right. My opponent had, I'm pretty sure it was Rachel Summers at the low point.
Yep.
Cable, Frenzy, Beast, and I feel like something else, something maybe low point or whatever. I cannot remember what the other thing was. But my opponent played well and was using the free TK well and repositioning, but their biggest mistake was early on, I had Magneto run and shoot and do like 1 damage to 2 different targets. I didn't care. I was like, that's kind of the way you play him, is you just keep chipping away at things. And he Colossal retaliated, but he threw that Phoenix all the way over to the other side of the map. Colossal retaliated and missed.
Ooh.
And I ate it alive with Juggernaut. And then it was a close match. It wasn't like a runaway. There was hits back and forth, but once I got rid of that retaliation, I was worried about that, and I kept my team sort of at a bit of a distance, with Magneto being the kind of guy who just stood there like, hey, I'm only going to take 1 damage. What do I care? It just worked out well. The combination of Juggernaut and Amelia Voight is gross. Because one, she makes him the mutant messiah, so he can mastermind to her. He carries her around for perplex, and then on top of that, she can always you can mastermind to her, and then she can activate her trait, or her special defense power, where you give her 2 tokens and 1 unavoidable damage instead of taking all the damage.
Yeah.
Gross. So yeah, that's pretty much how that worked out. Is that Juggernaut just started 1-hit killing things, and he didn't worry about dying. And yeah, I won that first one.
Mm-hmm. It was funny. My first round, I also looked over at Tom, and Tom was one single team of Juggernaut versus single team of Dark Phoenix.
That was all map roll.
Yeah, that was
It all came down to map roll.
It all came down to map roll. I was up against. I had a Krakoa, and I was pretty confident. I had a pretty good team. And then I look across the board at my opponent, Matt Donham's team, and he had 2 Krakoas. 2 Krakoas is better than 1 Krakoa, let me tell you. I did my best in this one. I scored a couple points. I guess I definitely killed his Krakoa, and like one other thing, but it came down to like a lot of us it was a lot of back and forth dice rolling and well-timed poisons on each side, and then that really just decided the game. And I think my Spiral survived significantly longer than she ever deserved to in that game. But my goodness, it was a rough battle. I scored some, but I ended up losing. And this whole part where I ended up losing, get used to hearing that. It was not a good outing for Jason, let me tell you.
Yeah, it was a rough one. Well, Tom won his, so we went 2-1 in that first round.
Yep.
Our second round, was that against
The Diabetitrons.
yeah, big shout out to the Diabetitrons. You guys are awesome. That was probably one of the most fun rounds of Hero Clicks on the day. I really want to say my opponent's name was Jack, but I'm probably wrong. God, I'm horrible with names. Everybody just you have to understand I'm just really bad with names.
It's been a week, like of more like overall of last time, so it's pretty easy to forget names unless you wrote them down somewhere.
That's it. If I saw this dude, I would know this dude, but
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, and I'm so sorry. We remembered the Diabetitrons though, and
Yes.
because you guys left a big impression on us.
Well, I mean, like, there's a story about my opponent, so go ahead. Though.
Yeah, right. We'll get to that. And so he also had a Juggernaut on his team. And he had a couple of other. He had Rogue. He had a regular Magneto, and he had a Fantasia. Not a great team. What was tough is I won map. I picked the Underground. I already now knew really how to play Juggernaut on the Underground better than he knew. I was smart and I sized up his Juggernaut early and took him out. And then my Juggernaut just ran roughshod over everything else, right? Because you're just constantly running through blocking terrain, destroy 3 squares of blocking terrain every single time. Like you just don't charge with him. Charging is pointless. Honestly, you just move him and you free single target Quake because he's got a 12 attack, 5 damage, and it's gross. And yeah, melee avoid, hanging on, getting brought along for the good time. So yeah, there was a tough one for my opponent, but good guy. We had a lot of fun in the game. We talked a lot about clicks and fans of the show apparently too.
Yeah,
so
it was
a
funny
great
when
round.
they found out who they were playing with after the fact.
Yeah, because I mentioned your name, and then all of a sudden it clicked in, and he was like, "Wait a minute, you guys are like the Married Clicks Meta Lab people. Oh, we love you guys. Playing with celebrities. We're not celebrities.
I'm sure we would have been noticed a little sooner. But my opponent was suffering from a bout of blindness. Was unable to see clearly. So he actually had, I'm not sure if it was mother or sister, very pleasant woman, helping him identify things, numbers, and read cards for him and stuff like that. He was playing a solo Dark Phoenix, which I was close to on this one. And my opponent can attest to, even he was kind of sad for me. I had it, like, I think there was maybe 4 or 5 clicks left on it. I was consistently hitting for a little while. And then at like there's this line in the game where everything stops and I start missing every single attack by 1. And like it's a 1-man army and I was able to use mind control to move his Dark Phoenix into position so that I could flurry with the Krakoa. I was doing all kinds of neat stuff, just pushing the limits of my team. And just that when I hit that line, I just stopped hitting, and it was just pure sadness from there. It was very unfortunate. I played it to the best of my ability, but once again pulled off the loss. We go into the third round, and
yeah, that was a tough round. I'm pretty sure that was my loss, and that was the Sentinel team. Well, robot team, and It was a Cyclops Sentinel, a regular Sentinel. I think it's just 25, and then that the Sentinel 1, and the Magneto Danger Room Magneto.
Piloting it, I want to point out.
Piloting it, right? Like, what a fantastic pilot for that thing. Like, I'm so inspired by that. I definitely will be running a robot team at one point with those two together because, so gross. And that was actually a really, really close game. I almost won that game. Like, we were so down to the wire. I can't believe I lost my Juggernaut like turn 2.
Oof.
Like he annihilated Juggernaut. I'm like, well, I've clearly lost this game. With just with just Magneto attacking, so with just the robot who only ever had I never lost I never got the arrow tokens, so he was only ever doing 1 damage. He killed everything else on that team. I had the Sentinel one down to like 2 clicks from death, and of course he still got the pilot on him, and that's when time ended. So I lost on points in like such a close game. I cannot believe how much killing potential that Danger Room Magneto has, only doing 1 click of damage.
Yeah.
It's kind of mental. It was really weird. And I'm also really impressed with how good he is as the pilot of that thing. So kudos to my opponent. That was a brilliant build on your part, and you really played that well. That was a crazy, insanely crazy tight game. A lot of fun.
Yeah. My game on this one was another close one, but it was close by virtue of luck going the reverse direction, but just not enough luck at the reverse direction. My opponent was playing the Colossus Prime. I believe that's a 200-point line. I'm just kind of double checking just to be sure. Yeah. So he's playing a 200-point Colossus, and he had a Beast, the one that gives +2 perplex, and a Wolverine. Like, it was a team. Like, I don't think he had too much of a hard time hitting as long as he was making attacks. But I really had to push a situation where I made the first attack. And that was ultimately my goal in this case. It started with a bit of a Hail Mary attempt with... One of the biggest mistakes I made with my team was not bringing more heavy objects. I want to point that out right now. Because I brought 0... and completely forgetting how Spiral works, she could just use TK and Incapacitate right after her phasing. I didn't know she could use both. I thought it was either or. So, in hindsight, bring heavies with Spiral, and then she could throw those heavies. Big mistake I made. But I was doing my best to try to whittle down the Wolverine and the Beast whenever I could. I knew I was at some point going to have to expose myself to a Colossus attack, so I wanted it to be whoever would be the least likely to either die or most likely to evade the attack, and that ended up being Spiral. So, and then I managed to get Sasquatch in for a really good attack, which was able to take out Beast, I believe, or do a lot of damage to Beast at the very least. Wolverine was didn't end up being the threat that he could have been. Thank goodness. But once it was just like I had lost Sasquatch and Krakoa, and I mean, for the most part, Rachel Summers was generally a write-off after her colossal retaliation attempts in most games. It was down to Spiral and White Queen. My White Queen did take some damage, which put her onto her Psychic Blast clicks, which I needed because once Colossus was down in clicks, he loses Invincible, and I can start penetrating Psychic Blasting Colossus, which comes in super handy when you're about to lose the game. I had him down. He had 5 clicks left on his Colossus, which means if I got 2 more attacks with Emma Frost, I had it. But, I mean, ultimately he was able to make an important hit against, I think, Emma Frost is an 18 defense at this time. White Queen, I think she's actually called. For those of you who aren't familiar with the characters, like a lot of it. No, it is Emma Frost. Yeah, she had like an 18 defense with super senses. And then eventually, like, Tom was watching the game, and I made all the right... He says I made all the right decisions, which, you know, when it's White Queen versus Prime Colossus, it's try to sidestep away and shoot if you can. And my goal in that case would be to, you know, outwit anything that would possibly increase the amount of damage I was about to take. Anyway, I got close, but no cigar. Once again, lost. Next round was Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Like that, I remember a lot of the team names. I don't remember the last, but no, I do remember who the last team's name was. But yeah,
yeah. My opponent had Cassandra Nova, Sauron. Oh my God, what else do you have?
Not many Colossals, I can tell you.
No, he didn't.
My opponent had all their Colossals.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was like 2 other figures that. Oh, Blob.
Yeah.
And maybe it was like one of those one of the guards.
The guard commands?
Yeah, I think he had one on the team, and then he was also able to generate them through Cassandra or whatever. Um, really, my opponent was really smart when he won map, and he chose a mock time because there's very, very little blocking to destroy in the map. There's still, though, a couple of little segments of 3 squares of blocking, and you better believe I found a way to maximize those. So ultimately, he wanted to keep himself in the hindering because even with all the rollouts on Cassandra, he didn't want to let my Magneto snipe. Well, I just stayed out of range. There was a lot of jockeying for positions, and I waited until I could get Magneto to a spot where he could do a well-timed single target quake as well as a group quake. Ultimately, what I was trying to do was get Sauron into a position that I could follow up with a second attack because I knew he had a stop click. So eventually that's what happened is Sauron, I got him on an angle where I could single target quake him, pop him to a stop click, hit him with Magneto, killed him, managed to get Colossus Juggernaut all into blocking or hindering to make him really hard for Cassandra to hit. Cassandra had one shot, missed on that turn, and then again, I just backed up enough to force Cassandra to sort of move out of the hindering. And I sniped away at everything else on the team, like chipped away at Blob one at a time from a distance. And basically, the game went to time. Cassandra was still left, but I had killed Blob, I'd killed Sauron, and I'd killed like 3 of the guard commands that kept getting called into the game, and then I would murder them, and Cassandra would roll leadership and bring another one in, and I would murder it. So, yeah, that was a pretty good game for me. I was pretty lucky. Dice in general went the direction I needed them to when I wanted them to. There's only a couple of misses in there, so but good, smart move on my opponent's part picking that map. That was a really tough jockeying for a position game.
My opponent's team was all of their Colossals, including Onslaught, I believe it was Green Proteus, Red Dragon Puff. I believe there was also an Orange Proteus. I might be wrong on that one. And I think a Rachel Summer. Either way, everything on his team was huge. it was the entire collection, like all except one Colossal on this side on this team. And this is where I learned how Onslaught works the hard way, because we were jockeying for early position just to not be the first one attacked, and I didn't realize that Onslaught could completely free action mind control after doesn't matter when, and he's got triple target 9 range. Now, I was trying to make it take advantage of the fact that my team couldn't be seen outside of 6 because of White Queen, but that doesn't matter. Because he moved within 6 of my team, mind controlled 3 of my guys, killed my Rachel Summers, I think he critically hit my Emma Frost, and it was just like, what am I doing with my life? What is going on here? And I just looked at it like, there's no way this is an uphill battle. I did whatever I could. I don't think I scored a point this game. It was kind of miserable. It was not good. It was a little rough because I took a beating in that game, and I was kind of wearing my heart on my sleeve on this particular one. So what can you do? You can take your wins, you can take your losses, and I took a loss. So. What can you do? What you can. So we go into the 5th round against Team Heraclix. It's a play on Hurricane and
Hurricane.
And we have to win it. We have to win out in order to get it. And I don't know if I hold you. Spoiler alert. I didn't help in this matter.
Yeah, it was tough, man. That happens sometimes when you build. You end up with a team that seems to be the nexus of getting its ass handed to it. So unfortunately, that seemed to be your lot on the day.
I also want to say anybody who's like, oh, he had 2 super rares in a chase. How did he lose? I'll show you how I lost.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a dice game, man. Yeah. Like, really, you still got to roll those dice, and they can have really hard swings to them, anomalous type rolls. Like the funny thing is, we talk about probabilities all the time and stuff. Like, oh, a 7 is like a 58% chance. That's like a theory of probability. That's like an overall, if you're rolling dice over blah blah blah, like there is no real probability of dice. You can sit at a table and roll a 2 and a 1 12, 14, 16 times in a row, man. It happens.
And never forget, a 56% chance of failure or of success is still a 44% chance of failure. There's still that's as close to 50-50 as you don't want to be.
All you got to do is look at the world champ, and I know it's not spoiling now because it's been a couple of weeks. Isaac had a Trelane and a Q on his team. He's got 2 dice manipulators on his team because he gets it. It's a dice game. Anytime that you can control what outcome happens on that and eliminate the anomalous type results, you're going to have more success. That's just how it is. It's a dice game. It's a painful, mean, cruel mistress of the dice game.
Yeah. So, and I know I didn't end up winning, and I don't think Tom ended up winning his
No.
either. No. So
I did. My opponent had Nimrod, the common Cyclops, and the common Jean Grey.
Okay.
I won map roll. I picked the underground map. I'm lucky that I missed with Magneto on Nimrod, because then my opponent decided to inform me how the Nimrod power gets around the whole error token thing. So if I had actually hit Nimrod with my Magneto, I would have dealt 4 damage to my Magneto, apparently, or 3 damage to my Magneto. It gets around his whole 1 damage thing.
How does it get around that?
I don't know. Apparently it does, because it says that you deal the printed damage value or some such thing. Jay confirmed it. You can ask him again. But I'm really happy I missed, or he rolled shape change, or whatever happened, because then all I did in that game was murder Jean, murder Scott, and run away. It's not
an attack. That's why Magneto takes full damage.
Yeah. So yeah, I just killed the 2 sort of support pieces, and then I ran away. And of course, as I ran away, I run through blocking terrain so that I can keep taking tokens off of Juggernaut, and I can just keep running the whole time, because why am I going to attack Nimrod? Like, Nimrod, oh my God, come on. Like, there's no way to get around the possibility of you could kill yourself, right? So why would I do it? Unfortunately, my opponent didn't so much appreciate that and pulled his Nimrod off the table and just conceded the match. I appreciate how difficult it can be in a game of HeroClix when we're sort of committed to making a team and putting it on the map and having this sort of battle, that when someone then runs away, it feels very frustrating and almost counterintuitive to the spirit of the game. Unfortunately, an element of the game and the win condition of the game is points. And there's a strategy to both taking points and keeping people from taking points. So, when you're in a position and you're ahead and you know that what you do next could very easily give your opponent the points to win, why would you do it, right?
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate situation. I agree. I love when we play it out. I love when people have a nice slobber knocker and like their 2 figures are right there just delivering blows back and forth, and it comes down to like, wow, I took 290 points and he took 295 points. Like, those to me are the greatest games, when we completely wipe out each other's teams and someone wins by only like 5 points or something awesome. But sorry, retreating is it's a part of war. It happens. So
I'm not going to go into the details of my loss. I just got completely outplayed in this game, in addition to my dice not wanting to accept me. But I do often use a boxing / MMA analogy with this. It's, I'm going to hit you, but I'm not going to expose my face so that you're going to hit me back.
Yeah.
And if I run my chance of getting knocked out because I've taken a couple shots in the face, I'm going to keep dodging or blocking and not expose myself to, and especially in a competitive environment, we do have to take the understanding. It's like, we're not going to sit there and accept the loss. We're going to do our best to win. within the confines of the game. And in Mike's
Absolutely.
case, it was. And Mike eventually calmed. Like you talked your
Oh
opponent.
yeah. We talked it all out, and I appreciated. We both appreciated how hot and heavy it was at that moment in
Yeah.
time. We knew we needed 3 wins to get through, and all that kind of stuff. So people get caught up in the moment of the game. I've been guilty of it. Lots of people have been guilty of it. I think the most important thing is to keep talking with your opponent, and hopefully get to a place where, again, you appreciate that everybody wants to play this game and win. It's never personal, and emotions happen, but we can be better than that.
Yeah. All right. So then we go into the next day. Tom, we tried to get Tom qualified. Tom had to do it the hard way, but he went 3-0 in the qualification rounds. So we're all three of us, and Emily and Devin, all ready to go into the next day to play in singles worlds. And you know what? Go through it, Mike. How is singles worlds for you?
Yeah, I will do my best to remember all my opponents and teams and stuff, and I will fail miserably. I so wish the event was posted somewhere so I could at least see the names of the rounds, and I'd probably remember.
Yep.
My first round match, oh my god, I can't remember. I feel like I played Brad first round because J Major had the Shade the Changing Girl team, right?
Your guess is as good as mine. I was in
Yeah,
the losers
damn it.
bracket.
So this is why I'm gonna forget everybody's name. I know some of the people I played on the day, and I'm forgetting stuff.
For the
My
most part, if you can't remember the names, let's go with the teams.
Yeah, so my first round opponent team was basically an X-Men team. So it's like one Cyclops, 3 Wolverines, Lila, and 2 Moiras, and the boxing ring. So my team I'm running is not really very different from my Canadian Nationals team. In fact, the only thing I changed about it was I switched out the Harley ID and I put on the faculty Cyclops ID so that I could have 2 super rare Cyclopses. Mostly because the only losses I had back then were against Devin. Both times he put me on the underground map. So I thought if I had another way to shoot through blocking, that would be helpful. So anyway, my overall team again it's Kobik with the cube, Unseen picking up a beetle pod, Mr. Oz, Mangog, and Groot with 4 IDs. So Cyclops, both student and faculty, Wolverine faculty, and Jean student. And of course, I only ever really play the Chase Jean, the Super Rare Wolverine. I have the other Cyclopses, but almost always I play both Super Rare Cyclopses. So, and I have the Wakanda map bonus because who doesn't want more chances to roll Super Senses on my team of all Super Senses? So, but unfortunately, what was my big destiny in the day was to not win map. So first round, I don't win map. He picks, I think it actually was a mock time. He puts the boxing ring right in the middle. I know exactly what's happening with this team. I faced off against this X-Men team before. I know it's high numbers, and I'm really hoping for Super Sense rolls and maybe that my probs will win out. He comes across early. He killed something fast, too. He took out my retaliators right away. I came over and managed to get my Wolverine in the ring, and I killed his Cyclops, and I think I killed a Moira as well. But he then comes back and he murders Unseen. I was really surprised. I thought actually Unseen would roll out a little bit faster, but didn't. So then I ended up down to I was down to like Oz, a Walking Wood, Mr. Oz, a Walking Wood, and Kobik. So I'm pretty much figuring, yeah, this is all over for me. Or sorry, 2 Walking Woods. So I'm just gonna play it out. I'm gonna try and get as many points as I can. Wow. Always play it out, man, because my Walking Woods became hot. Every attack roll with the Walking Woods hit. I murdered 2 Wolverines using Walking Woods. The next turn, I pushed a Walking Wood to kill the 3rd Wolverine. I went on to wipe out his team, or almost wipe out. I think he had like a Moira left at the end one time or something like that. But who knew all of a sudden that I could come back in that scenario. So first round, I had a win, and I was feeling pretty good about it. Second round, oh my God, totally forgetting. Can't even remember who I faced second round now.
Okay, well, I'll give you a chance to remember your second round while I talk about the first round.
Yeah, you talk about yours.
My first round was against Steve DiCarlo. I don't know if you're amongst the HeroClix community. That's not an easy player to play against, and it was shown because for those of you who may or may not have caught other episodes of on the channel, my team was a robot theme team that consisted of Iron Man from Earth X, Isaac, Skeets, the Tri-Sentinel at 30 points, 30 or 35, whatever he is, and Prez Rickard. I had 5 student ID cards on the sideline, and so you get the idea of the team. I lost map roll in the first one, but of course I pulled in the Pog, but I made a big boo-boo, and I didn't follow my own advice for Worlds. I didn't practice this team, which means I didn't know what my downsides were or how aggressively I should be using my barriers on my team. Because if you caught the team description, the Iron Man has barrier, one of the Pogs Isaac makes has barrier, and I also had an ice ring, which I would give to either Prez Rickard or Isaac depending on my mood, and that was a third source of barrier. So I could generally have overlapping barrier and allow my Pogs to do a lot of the work for me. Unfortunately, in the first round, I forgot to use that whole barrier thing, and basically just let my Cyclops get shot in the face let my Tri-Sentinel get shot in the face by a Cyclops, because I was in a rush to get more and more Pogs. With this team, I think if I was to play it again, I would be cooling it on how many bystanders I make and only have Iron Man make them when I need them, or only have Isaac make them when I need them and not have them barriering, or be more reliant on Isaac's box. Either way, there's a lot more things I could have done better in the future with my team is ultimately the goal. Unfortunately, Worlds is not a place you want to be learning. You want to have already learned, and bad decision on my part. And part of me kind of regrets trying to go the way of the meta and realizing that bores me, and I got to play the Jason way. But of course, in the first round, he was because Steve had map, he had control of the board, and he had some huge TK ranges, massive call-ins, and was just able to pick apart just what he needed, which was anything that didn't have a stop click, which was not Iron Man, not Isaac. He had some hot heals on his Floral Colossals on his team. Let me tell you, his team was Kobik, Unseen, 2 Floral Colossals, a Groot. Yeah, we know how this goes. and I think he had a Trader as well. And he like the first round he took the ice ring from me. I was like, well, okay, what do I do now? Well, I can't rely on that, so I'm going to try something else. Either way, fully outclassed, fully beat. I scored 10 points. That was about it. And ID cards. I scored 10 points in ID cards. Ended up being pretty high. And, well, no, I think I killed something else. And I killed Groot as well. So 30 plus ID cards. Not a great place to start. Do you remember your second round yet?
I'm pretty sure my second round was I'm pretty sure I went win, loss, win, loss, win is the kind of the way. So I'm gonna guess that my second round was against Justin. Can't remember Justin's last name, but he played 2 Tri-Sentinels, Black Adam, Billy Batson, Alex Wilder, and 50-point Sheriff Strange.
I almost played this team. I couldn't commit to it.
Yeah, well, it's a good team. I knew what it could do. He won map. He picked the hedge maze, which I didn't mind. I don't love all that blocking, obviously. It makes things tougher unseen. But I was still able to kill the Tri-Sentinels early and easily with Cyclops call-ins because, they're just standing there above the hedge maze. I've got perplexes and whatever else I need. So I killed them early. But really, I just couldn't actually stave off the Black Adam thing. Like he got rid of my retaliators too. So it was all about points at that. We're in that stage where were both working and trying to make things happen. I had to try and come out after his guys. I managed to hit Billy Batson right down to his last click, but didn't finish him off. And the slow and steady free moving up with Black Adam just eventually got him into a position where he got a big strike in. He took out, I think he took out Mr. Oz first. Then he took out Unseen. Everything just basically fell apart from there. He played it really well. He had Remaker Ring on Black Adam as well, so a passive poison damage is a great way to get rid of things. He won. I took some points, so I'm now 1-1. My third round opponent, again, I feel like that was Jay. I feel like Jay Major was the one who played the. It's like 3 Shade the Changing Girls, a Mangog. I think he had a Groot, and Star Fox was his team.
I know DJ Riggin was also playing that team, so
maybe. Oh man, see, I'm so bad with names. Everybody, I should just. This is why I love when they print out the list, and when the win has the event, and you can just go look at who your opponent was, and then
I was looking for it on the win, just in our in my homepage to see if they posted anything.
Nothing. So I apologize to my opponents. You know, I always know who you are when I'm playing you. So he wins map, picks that rock map that's like it's an indoor with elevation changes and blocking. It looks like some weird temple thing with torches and stuff. I cannot remember the name of that map. I am the worst today. I'm the worst co-host for you today. I can't remember.
I'm not going to be much better, but I'm just trying
to
are you? Most of my games.
What show is this? Where are we again? The Alzheimer's kicked in way too early. I know what that team does only from what people have told me. There's really nothing I could do about the fact that he placed 3 heavy objects right there on the edge of my starting area, and he was going to jump over with Shade the Changing Girls. What helped me was he had horrible dice. Things were not working out for him. Things were totally working out for me. All the dice rolls I needed happened. My crazy amount of probs prevented things for him from happening. At one point in time, he actually managed to get Colossal Retaliation with Mangog on one of my Walking Woods, because positioning, I just couldn't get the Walking Wood out of the way, or I couldn't, had to make the attack with a Walking Wood. There's nothing I could do to make him disappear. But I'd set, all my guys were still at my end of the map, and I set it up in such a way that he could only attack my Groot and the Walking Wood, and that was it with Mangog. Well, it didn't matter because he decided to crit miss with Mangog.
Oh,
and
nice
that, and that was pretty much the beginning of the end. I just kept taking apart these Shade Changing Girls. He would do call-ins like Beast, and then I would kill the call-ins to get those extra points. He then made some good comeback moves. I then had a couple of bad dice rolls, and all of a sudden I was down to Kobik, who was halfway down the dial, and Unseen, and that was all I had left. Thank God for the Beetle Pod, because I can carry Kobik with Unseen, and I was able to run to the middle of the map. He came after me in the middle of the map, and time was called, and I managed to win that one. So that was a squeaker. That was a tough match. Dice were definitely a factor.
So my second round, I believe his name was Mike, also a fan of the show. It was a different take on the Kobik team. He had nothing on the sideline. It was Kobik Collector, Trader, Groot for sure, and Flora Colossals, I think 1 or 2. Either way, this one I played slightly smarter. I did use Barrier occasionally, but I was definitely absent a lot of hits in this game. Me personally, I think I personally did 3 damage to my Iron Man, 2 of which came from losing Pogs, 1 of which came from a critical miss. I only managed to kill his Groot, and I didn't hit his Groot with my Tri-Sentinel. He just happened to be next to blocking terrain when I Colossal retaliated. It was not a good time, to say the least. So I did my best. I only scored the Groot, so I was really rough for points going into the third round, where I was up against. I was up against Matt, who is a fellow who's also in the industry of video game development. I won't go into details because let's leave that alone. Me and him, I found out later anyway. Matt was playing Medusas. He had 3 Medusas, 2 Infinity Gems, white, aim white, and aim blue on his team. And I think he went 3 Infinity Gems on his team, which was a cool choice. Suffice to say, he was in my face very quickly. But that's what Medusas do. They get up in your face. Now, one of the things that Medusas have a choice of which to deal with is they walk past my pogs, or they deal with my pogs, which gives me time to Tri-Sentinel them. So he walked past my pogs and killed my skeets, and my Tri-Sentinel were not long for this game. Eventually lost Prez Rickard as well. But not before Prez Rickard was able to take action tokens off of his aim guys off in the corner and start taking them off of my guys, increasing just the number of continuous actions I could be making. The Pogs ended up, my bystanders came back into the game, did a ton of damage with everything I was making, and just kind of whittled down the Medusas until I was kind of left standing against the aim agents with I think I had just my bystanders and Isaac and Iron Man. He got to pick map, and he picked one of those maps with the square starting areas in either corners. Like twice against me that's happened. It's like, oh boy, I can't barrier those in very well, let me tell you. And you can't barriering against Medusa is not an ideal proposition. They can get around it with the Voyager in most cases, no problem. So I kind of looked at this and said, I can try to just block with my face with my guys with stop clicks and hope for the best. And the best happened, so thank goodness. But that game could have swung either way, let me tell you. So that was our first 3 rounds. What was your round 4 like?
Dan Powell.
I hear he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's playing the 150 Unimind, unseen, couple of floor Colossus. This is a Groot, and he's got some rings. I won map. Hey. I actually won map. It's so crazy. I wasn't winning map in any round, and I was a little depressed by that. And I finally win map, and I have my worst loss of the day, having finally won map. I only took 25 points. I killed Groot, and there was like a call-in. Yeah, I mean, I did interesting things. I stole the wrong ring. I shouldn't have taken. I took Nightbringer and I actually put the Nightbringer ring on Oz because I thought it'd be fun for Oz to be making smoke wherever he was, so he could sort of position himself anywhere he wanted for that 12 range prob. I really should have given him the Remaker ring to get rid of the whole shape change thing off of Unseen, because that was a problem for me later. And
you know what Unseen needs to be? Harder to hit.
yeah. It was a bad choice of mine. It was a great move early on for me to steal a ring right away, and I totally stole the wrong ring. It's okay. I had a feeling I wasn't going to win that game. Dan's played that Unimind so well that it's kind of been on autopilot, and it's already a tough figure. My team doesn't do enough damage over and over again to really take out a Unimind. It's a tough slog for me, and there's no way to really get rid of what he does. Even with the trait of stealing the power cosmic, he kind of really just doesn't care because he still gets to use all those perplexes. And it was a beating. It was a beating. Also, ironically, it was the moment of the day where Antonio Davis, right?
Antonio
No,
Clark.
Clark. Why do I always do that? You know why? Because Antonio Davis is a basketball player who played for the Raptors. So hey Raptors, didn't they win something big? Yeah, everything's in Canada. Antonio Clark, fantastic artist. He was going around. He was drawing. He was doing like some murals and art on a lot of the tables. And one of the tables he drew on, he drew Moon Knight. And that was the table I was at for my game with Dan, which I thought was really cool that I was going to play a Moon Knight table. Didn't find it so cool that I got my ass handed to me at the Moon Knight table. I thought it was going to be good luck, completely the opposite of, but it was still really cool. It was a nice highlight to have that moment, to have all my Moon Knight gear on a Moon Knight table. Maybe it softened the blow a little bit.
You were under the watchful eye of Moon Knight, and he was not having a good day.
No, he was. It's a good thing his face was hidden under the map.
Yeah,
he was embarrassed.
My fourth round was against Antonio Clark, oddly enough. He was playing 3 Medusas. Mr. Terrific, incidentally, I learned that character can be obnoxious in this game, and a Phil Coulson. So he was using Coulson to move his team and using the tokens that he has to choose probability control, which, boy, was I nervous on this game. I won map because his team is not themed by putting on the Mr. Terrific. But he was all up in my face. Again, much like my previous opponent, who's playing Medusa, skipped the bystanders. But because I had one map, I was rolling for free dudes. And at one point, Steel Monolith came up. And I knew that he was my hope, my great white hope, as it were, to win this. So what ended up happening is I moved my Steel Monolith into a position where I could sidestep to eventually quake all his dudes. And he was attempting to take me down, get through my barriers, because I was using barrier this time, to wall myself in as best I could and defend myself from the flow of Medusas. And it came down to, he had 2 of his Medusas up against the side of the map and 1 Medusa next to one of those. So I came in with a sidestep on the Steel Monolith, but I was able to quake all 3 of the Medusas and Phil Coulson, knocking back 2 of the Medusas, taking an additional damage. So they each took 3 damage from the Steel Monolith, and then the other Medusa had taken 2. I played this team with Amber, built this team with Amber, and so I kind of know where the clicks are at this point. Called in Kitty Pryde, who brought in Lockjaw, who energy exploded on the 2 Medusas who now have Close Combat Expert. Killed those 2 Medusas. He was down to 1 Medusa, Phil Coulson, and Mr. Terrific. Missed all of his attacks the next turn with the Medusa, and looked at it and said, "This is an uphill battle for me. I'm going to have to concede." It was like, at the point I understood where he was coming from in this case. He kind of he saw the forest for the trees, and it was, if I wasn't able to follow up with that energy explosion, he still had a massive chance of beating me. So that was like, it was best option, do it. Yeah, that was my 4th round. So I'm back into 2-2 realm. Like there's hope. Little
that was all of us though, right?
Yeah,
all of us going into that last round with our 2-2s.
Yeah,
with a hope and a prayer and some points.
Yeah. What was your 5th round?
Well, my 5th round, again, man, it was either Jack or Jake. I feel like it was Jake, so it was probably Jack. My luck. But anyway,
really, Philip.
Yeah, really super nice guy. I lose map. The only time again that I won map on all 5 rounds was against Dan, and just I never got to take advantage of it. It's so painful. This guy's team was Medusas, so it was 2 Voyagers, 3 Medusas, aim white, and an aim blue, I believe was what it was, or aim red and an aim white. Yeah, aim red.
That math works out.
Yeah, aim red and an aim white. That's it.
Yeah, so it would have to be aim red and aim white because they're 30 and 20. It's another 50. So it's 50 all around when you add up those two
Yeah.
aim guys.
No ID cards, no anything else.
Nope.
Avengers wins map, picks that same rock map with a lot of walls and elevation changes or whatever. Oh man, he comes all the way across. I know what's going to happen because I faced this before. I faced Amber's Medusa team when we were at Nationals, and I know exactly what it does, and I know exactly what I want to have happen. So I set myself up in the position. I get my beetle pod
position.
Yeah, I get my beetle pod on my on unseen. I get everybody lined up. I perplex up Mangog's defense, and I have my probs in position. He brings half his team, so he brings two Medusas, I think the AIM Red, and a Voyager over by Mangog. It's the only person, because we're all really tight and with the positioning of the walls and whatever. A whole lot of rolls later, it's all misses.
Oh my gosh.
He uses up every theme prob he can possibly use.
Oh,
I think
man.
I only had to use one of my probs that sees through everything from Mr. Oz, but it's all misses. And I know what that means. It's Mangog time.
Yeah. Get
Uh,
gogged.
I don't even get to make the second attack because I kill everything in the corner with the first attack.
Did you critically hit or?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I just annihilate everything in the corner because between the damage and knockback and whatever, like it's gross. I wipe out the entire corner. His other half of his team, he comes around the other side. I don't have choices anymore. We got to come around the other side and try and take stuff out. Nope. Walking Woods say no. Shape change. I'm a shrub. You don't want to hit me. And I used my Walking Woods to kill the rest of his team. The game was done, I think, turn 4. Mangog was one square out of the starting area. Mr. Oz was still in his starting square. Unseen was still in his starting square. Kobik had moved one square. Groot was still in his starting square. And I'd killed everything on his team.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was wow. It was a perfect storm, as it were, for my team. You come out, you miss on the Mangog, I Mangog you. Like that's what I always dream of happening with my team.
Yeah.
It doesn't get to happen very often because most teams just kill Mangog and don't let it happen. But I'm always happy to face a Medusa team because what Medusa has to do is what I want someone to do, especially because of all my probs. I'm usually in the best case scenario. The only time it doesn't work out is hot dice. Yeah. Like anything else. If you come out and you got hot dice and you just annihilate my Mangog and Groot, then you're laughing. So I did everything I needed to do in that last round. I took full points. I got 300 points in that last game. I finished up 3-2 and finished 35th.
Yes. One out.
Yeah, missing the cut.
Spoiler alert.
Which was a top 32 cut. So I missed it by I missed it by 87 points.
Yeah.
So maybe if I had actually killed another thing in my game with Dan, but
speculations.
But I felt great. 3-2 is a winning record. To be so close to the cut, I felt like I was in it in almost all of my games, and I felt really good about the performance and my team.
Yeah, my last round, I remember the player's name. His name was Brandon, because I was like, Brandon, you and me, we're in the final. We're both fighting for the same thing. And boy, did we ever play like we were. We were both playing with all forms of desperation. In this game, once again, lost map. I was trying to get map at times, but I was based on the contingency that if I lost map, I was still going to be fine. And I was a little bit wrong in a lot of cases. But in this one, I was a little smarter with my barriers, and I put them into such a position that I forced an overstretch if he wanted to kill my Tri Sentinel, which my Tri Sentinel survived the second turn one game. He did not have a good record of being on my table. But that aside, Brandon was put into a position where he TK'd his unseen, sidestepped it forward, but no, sorry, TK'd his Kobik. Kobik was the one who called in Cyclops. Put his unseen all the way to the other side of the table so as to get a prob. Where he was calling in his Cyclops was inside a hindering, which meant in order to get the distance he needed, he had to use his sidestep first in order to use a running shot in order to hit my Tri-Sentinel, which meant that after having moved and poofed his Kobik, he has stretched the maximum amount of range that he can go as far as moving forward, which means he is now required to keep Cyclops on the table. Which I was excited for after he had killed my Tri-Sentinel, because okay, I can get some winning points on this in this case and get ahead again. Also, want to point out, keeping notes about the score, super useful. Because when I was writing down the points in a game like this, I was keeping track and knew what I had to do in each situation. But
plus, you'd have their names for situations like this.
I forgot to do that part of it. So here's the funny thing. Against the Cyclops, he perplexed up the defense on the Cyclops, knowing he'd have to keep it on. So he's relying on the hindering terrain he's in and the extra defense. So he's got a 19 defense that I got to get through. And in my head, the best options are to use Range Combat Expert with Steel Bow, who I started the game with. No, he missed. I followed up with another reasonable level of attack against it. I think it was like a 10 on a 19. Also a miss. And one of these was with the prob from Crimson Sage. But the dice gods turned in my favor. He had put Smoke Cloud in front of my map, and I did have Stellar X out from a previous turn. So I running shot with... No, I actually had just brought out Stellar X this turn. I running shot with Stellar X, but unfortunately I'm in the Smoke Cloud. So I'm a 9 on a 19. He's used his probs, I've used all my probs. I need a 10. But it's 3 damage, it's going to kill Cyclops, and the dice gods turned for me. I got my 10. So I ended up getting a point lead on that one. And I was just like, this big wash of oh, that just happened. Is that what that feels like? Just happened to me. So Brandon now has to try to score a little bit more. So next he follows this up with a call in on Jean Grey. He uses Jean Grey to running shot, make a shot at one of my guys. Ends up missing, and then in the follow-up, he ends up hitting one of my bystander tokens. And his follow-up, most cases you deal with this, the Jean Grey TKs herself out of the distance. He wanted to use the TK offensively to try to get rid of one of my Pogs. And I was able to capitalize on it this time. I've never seen Jean Grey stay on the table, so I had to double-check my Jean Grey card to see how many clicks she has when you play her at 60 points. It's 4, by the way. I, at this point, was able to call in Chaos, who was able to TK Lord Gaia, who has Close Combat Expert, right next to her, and with an 11 attack on a 18 defense, was able to kill Jean Grey. So I've now killed 2 of his call-ins, and it's just like, I'm just looking at this like, oh my god, everything's going well. Is this right? What's about to happen? Am I about to explode? And yeah, I was able to kill with a beast call-in. I was able to kill Unseen. I wasn't able to finish off Trader. Wasn't able to finishing anything else off. But I ended the game at 259 when time was called, and I thought those were really reasonable points. But I ended up in 36. 1 spot below Mike. I thought 900 was enough because I was hearing about a lot of low point wins and low point losses and stuff like that, but no, 1,000 was the number you needed apparently. So, but I'm still happy with a relatively untested team that was not Cosmic, and I had a ton of fun playing. I managed to eke out a winning record on this one. So in hindsight, next time I will just play the fun team until I'm blind and maybe do better, but maybe not. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I will just be a little bit more ready for everything. Anything you want to kind of add before we move into the information about states?
No, just want to reiterate again. If you get the opportunity to go to one of these events, you really should go. There's really something magical about getting to go and play in this type of format. All these other clicks players who are so passionate about the game. Battle royals are so much fun. Especially if you get a table of crazy Canucks
Board.
there. Yeah, board tokens. Board tokens. George Massey accumulated an enormous amount of board tokens on his mojo, so that was fun for him. And thanks to WizKids for making this event, for trying out something that's just about WizKids. And also thanks to Kenny for the special skirmish event. I was lucky that my number was drawn to participate in this special little skirmish event, a different way of playing HeroClix. It was really neat and interesting, and I hope they try more things like that. It was a great weekend. You should always try and go away to one of these things at least once in your HeroClix life. It's so much fun and great weekend.
Just remember, if it dissuades you that qualification is required, qualification is not required to enter the building. You can play in battle royales, and there are often qualifiers for that last chance into Worlds, or ways to qualify through Worlds through participation. Team Worlds is probably one of the most casual competitive events I've ever seen. It's probably one of the most fun competitive events that exists in the game of HeroClix for sure. And even though it's competitive, everybody's got a smile on their face during Team Worlds. It's so much fun. Even when I was losing, I was still like, God, this event is great. And, like I said, if you're not into the competitive thing, but you like to watch it or observe it, battle royales are there while that's going on to kind of occupy your time. It's a great experience if you do get a chance to go out. And because Worlds is now its own thing, there's no extra cost. You don't have to be part of a convention, that kind of thing, which is an awesome element of the entire thing. But from Worlds, we now cast our eyes to the Rock's second round of states events. And recently, so the story this time around was that they're going to run two states events. The first one, which we've already run through the year, and a second one, which was originally planned to be sealed. Now, the stores were not a fan of running sealed with this particular set because this set is expensive. You have to order a lot of it for this, and as a result, the stores have to incur a lot of costs as well. The players have to incur a lot of costs. It's $40 to $45 to $50, depending on how everything works out, is not ideal for an event. Magic can do it, we can't. So what ended up happening is The Rock found a format that is different, to say the least. It is the HeroClix pauper format. Now, those of you familiar with Magic, Magic's pauper format is all commons. Anything that's been printed in common is legal for this. For HeroClix, it is commons and uncommons. But there have been some massive changes to the entire pauper format that were made in conjunction with the Rock's push to have it for states, and I guess it might have been part of other rules that the pauper rules team was working on. We have a whole article that I have linked in the description below. It's also on our Facebook and our Facebook community group. So check those out. The links are there. So it's downloads a PDF, and the PDF has all of this information. So we're going to just pop over that quickly. This is the table of contents. This is not interesting. The goal of it, obviously, when you make a pauper format, it's expensive to be competitive. Let's take the expense out. Okay. And now the format rules is common rarity, uncommon rarity. Equipment has to be common or uncommon. ID cards have to be common or uncommon. Also note, anything you call in with an ID card has to be common or uncommon. Now, the only common ID cards in the current state of the game are the student ID cards from X-Men Xavier School, but the call-ins have to be common or uncommon, which also limits the number of those that you can use. The all-new Wolverine, as an example, is unusable because the only all-new Wolverine we have is rare. Fast forces and starter sets are allowed for this format, and they've moved to a Highlander rule. That is nomenclature for everything is considered unique when you're building your team. That's just the best. The phrase Highlander comes from the movie Highlander. There can be only one.
There can be only one.
They've also added this piece here that I'm showing on screen. WWE pieces are going to be allowed, and that is the over-the-counter and the starter set pieces. They're letting them in. So be aware of this. Be ready for that. Consider that when you're building your teams. Also, primes are not allowed, but the unique alternative primes, like the prime alternatives that were uniques, are allowed. So I believe it was Firefall and Terminator in Avengers Infinity.
Starlight.
Was this Starlight was a super rare, wasn't she?
Yeah. She wouldn't be because she's a super rare, but
would that be the
she
common
was.
or uncommon alternatives? That's why I was trying to be
Yeah.
specific as to the ones.
Yeah, I think you were right. Terminator and.
Nope, I was incorrect. It is Firefall and Javelin.
Javelin.
But from X-Men animated series, that's the Danger Room Magneto and the Danger Room Sabretooth. They will be allowed in this format.
Oh, they are. Oh, my Lanta. Oh, yes. No. Oh, no. It goes back to what we were talking about before. Oh, no.
Now, they are observing a ban list that doesn't exist yet, but they're going to keep an eye on things that happen. A couple things. The move to Highlander was probably a reaction to things like the Medusa team. Uh-oh. All right, so I may be linking to a page. You may actually have to follow the Pauper Circuit fan page or Facebook group. I tried. Sorry, guys. I tried to make it easy for everybody. I should have just downloaded and hosted the PDF, to be brutally honest. I'm terrible. There's also a list of frequently asked questions at the bottom, but the point we want to get at is States is going to be a 300-point Pauper Highlander format for the event in November. And now these are going to be taking place in November. So there's still a lot of time. There's still a couple sets to come out. Obviously, WWE in its entirety is going to be out by then. We now have the X-Men set. Star Trek Boldly Go still has to come out. But then before that or after that, there's nothing really on the horizon, if I'm remembering correctly. I may not be. So, Mike, what's your initial take on this? I mean, with the changes and just the format in general.
I find the format interesting. I do like, again, that it's nice to try different things. I'm also excited for the fact that it'll shake up a bit of the staleness maybe in the meta right now. Like you mentioned, Cosmic is everywhere. Everybody's making Cosmic teams. I make Cosmic teams. It's hard not to. There's so much stuff in that environment. So what's nice about this format is we're going to eliminate all these pieces that we've sort of been saturated with recently in the meta. So that part is exciting to me. I'm worried about a couple of figures that I could see potentially being a bit maybe broken in this thing, but that happens all the time. I'm excited for something different. I like when we mix it up. I like that people have to think differently and build differently, and it'll show really good players. You got to be able to play this in all the different iterations. So it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of shapes up its own little meta game. One of the things that people have to understand is this isn't going to take away power. It's just going to shift power. And that's kind of the first thing I always want to warn people when this sort of restricted format comes out is it's only restrictive in as far as money is concerned. A lot of these figures are just like the figures we're going to be used are going to be available. We're all gonna. The idea, I guess, is that we should all have them all. So if you want to all have them all, get your hands on those WWE figures right when they're on the shelves. Because one, WWE is awesome, and two, those figures are going to stand out in this format for sure. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. Is power is just going to shift. It's not going to not exist, and I want everybody to be aware of that because, like Mike said, it's going to be different things, which is cool. And there's going to be a lot of new ideas. New possibilities are like the possibilities are endless to a certain degree, but then what becomes strong just shifts. And it's not like Medusa is gone because Medusa can be as part of a team that includes Crystal and Hulk. So you can still carry with Voyager, free action, Quake with Crystal, and then follow up with your usual Medusa shenanigans. It's not as potent, but it is still potent. Also, there's a lot of uncommon colossal large base figures that exist. Be ready for that. Terrain
like
Doom,
like Juggernaut.
like Juggernaut. Juggernaut's an uncommon 300-point Juggernaut. It's viable. I think it's fully viable in this format, especially with when I looked at a team I was considering. It's like, oh, Juggernaut just kind of walks through that team, doesn't he? And then I'm kind of stuck dealing with it in a different way or a unique way as best I can do it. So the long and short of it is, it's interesting. Don't expect it to not be powerful. And yeah, I have other snippy things to say, but for the most part, like this is, I'm excited to give it a try. My snippy things are mostly at those kind of people who poo-poo like, oh, look at the pay-to-win team. Well, when one of those players wins this, are you gonna still have your big mouth there, or are you gonna shut up? Because locally, I've seen formats like this be won by the guys who win in the pay-to-win, or the quote-unquote pay-to-win, like the full format. So, good players, good players.
Yeah, the meta hasn't changed. This isn't changing the meta. This is just changing
It's creating its own.
what the pool you can pick from for the meta is. The things that work, the things that make a team successful are still going to be the same things. It's just where people are going to grab those elements from have changed. That's
Absolutely. Yep. One of the things that also is going to play a major role, I think, is going to be the WWE ring, because it's part of a starter set. And it's WWE. So, I mean, if you think the boxing ring's not a problem, the WWE ring makes full-blown rerolls. When you're -2 attack, you can hit. When you do hit against somebody in the ring, you're going to have to try to do it again. So, it's exciting and it's terrifying because there's the number of considerations. I know we're going to spend a lot of time talking about considerations, so I more or less wanted to focus on the changes and some of the decisions that were made. I agree. It's the reasoning of the pauper as far as changing it to a Highlander format. I'm never a fan of moving something to or forcing Highlander, because HeroClix kind of comes with its own rules for that, and that's the unique line, and you pay a discount for a unique line in a lot of cases, or there's some kind of point consideration for that. But now I'm kind of being forced into it. But that's like a minor game design nitpick. I'm okay with it. I will work around it. In addition to which, if you think I can't bring multiple things from the outside of the game, you are kidding yourself. I have made some things. I have seen some ideas that I have come up with that terrify me when I see, like, oh, Jason boards are coming again. So if you think you're safe, you're not. Anything else you want to add, Mike?
No. I'm excited to try it out. I'm excited for the unit section to get updated on HC Realms so I can start building some crazy common, uncommon teams. And I look forward to it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is what most of the set looks like, America. I am just missing a couple chases and a couple primes. I'm almost done already. I'm so proud of myself, and I still have a case to go. What am I going to do with myself? Crazy. All right. Before we move to questions, I want to remind everybody, check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. I appreciate any support that we get over at the Patreon. And any dollar valuation gets you access to our patron Discord, along with our patron hangout, with the next one being Sunday, October 6th, at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, like I said, you join in the Patreon, $1 gets you in on that, as well as the Discord, and higher values get you other treats as well. So, check that out, and we do appreciate all of our fans on the Patreon and all the wonderful help that they offer us from their wallets. All right. So we're gonna move to our Facebook. And what we usually do is we have a Facebook post from Married with Clicks, or Facebook.com/Married with Clicks. We get questions in there from our community group, from whatever you like. Also, if you're in the chat, put in big capital letters "question" in front of your question. If chat gets busy, it's easier to identify your question. Don't worry, Aaron Pellet, I caught your question. But the first one I'm going to address here. And this is an overall, because you've mentioned it earlier in the show. And Ryan Hickey, who gave you the Moon Knight, wants to know, overall, what did you think of the Regenesis OP kit this summer? Or OP event this summer? Personally, I'm not done yet, and I've been judging mine. So, but from the outside looking in, it looks... They've managed to do this thing again where it's like, they got the greatest idea, and they made it a little too long. You know, like Regenesis probably could have been 2 months, and then that would have been fine. 3 months, by the third month, seeing so many Wolverines just seems like such a slog. But that's my outside looking in from a judge perspective. What's your thoughts there, Mike?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't know how to put the exact word on it. It feels like if it was going to be 3 months, there should have been a couple more figures in the set. You know what I mean? Like something that would have stretched out and would have still made some more variations. Also mixed in with the fact that, this Wolverine is just completely broken in this format. He's so hard to kill because you don't have all the bells and whistles to get through those stop clicks. He's healing for free if you're putting him on a Jean Grey theme team, which you have to. I mean, I don't even look at the blue. When this is month 3. This is what happens when I open my boosters. Oh, yellow. Okay, what is it? Oh, Kitty Pryde. Damn it. Okay, well, whatever. It's still yellow. I can keep building Jean Grey. Blue. Don't even bother. I don't even care what figure this is. Anybody want blue ones? Can I trade you for yellow? Like this is what happens every time, because you need to get a Wolverine. If you have more than one Wolverine, you're probably going to win, and you got to make sure you make a Jean Grey school. No event should end up like that. So there's something that's happened along the way. This figure mixed with the length of the event that's created this scenario, which isn't fun. It's not fun watching 2 Wolverines try and roll 8s to finish each other off for 25 minutes. I mean, that like month 1, I won at 2 different venues, and both of my games at one point were Wolverine versus Wolverine, and for 20 minutes we rolled dice trying to finish off each other's Wolverine. And it just wasn't. It's just I'm disappointed in that. I loved the idea of it. I loved the 3-month thing. I loved having the factions and stuff, different ways for people to sort of win and get points. But either you got to pay better attention to the figures that you're putting in a set like this and how they interact with each other in this limited format, or have more figures, or have it be less months, something. I feel like I got to give it like a C. Great conceptually, but it just didn't quite work out the way that you wanted it to work out.
Before we move to the next question, I'm rescheduling the patron hangout to the next Sunday. That's the 13th? Yes. WWE Hell in the Cells on that. I am not missing the Fiend versus Seth Rollins.
I'm not saying nothing.
All right. But next, question from our Alpha patron. Speaking of our patrons. Remember when stop clicks didn't permit dials to heal past that click? It's kind of a rarity, but it happens, yes. Points out Mindy, Phoebe, and Celeste of the Cuckoos. Maybe that's what's wrong with the common Wolverine. He absolutely has to be errated now that every single team was playing 2 Wolverines at month 3 in my regional venue. Okay, here's the problem with this, is Wolverine is what we like to call in-format broken. I consider Onslaught in-format broken. I don't think Onslaught is going to win Worlds next year. Asterisks. Who knows what they add to... Conceptually, Onslaught is scary as hell, but I'm looking at him right now and it's like, I don't think he's going to do what we think he's going to do. But in an X-Men animated series sealed format in that little bubble, by God, Onslaught's unstoppable.
Yeah, it's the limited toolbox thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you've only got so many tools in the toolbox, and now you've got to take down this wall. The task becomes more difficult if your toolbox is full of screwdrivers.
I was gonna say you have to hammer in a nail, and you got a toolbox full of screwdrivers.
Exactly. That's what happens with Onslaught in the sealed, because of the fact that there's just things that he ignores and ways of manipulating teams. He moves and he's got a 9 range triple target. That's gross enough.
And he can't be shot back outside of 5.
Yeah. And Wolverine is the same in this limited format, because you don't like Chase Green Arrow doesn't care about Wolverine.
No.
He just blows through those stop clicks.
He goes,
and
wait,
yeah.
hold on. He goes, ha!
Yeah, he doesn't care at all. He just blows through those stop clicks. So it's the limited toolbox thing. That's the only reason why that this figure is so ridiculous this way. And I don't think that you even consider an errata for it, because it's not going to matter now.
Yeah.
Like moving forward, he's not going to matter anyway that way. There's limited stuff with that keyword. Even if they make more stuff with that keyword, there's still enough stuff out there when you have access to the entire hardware store of Clicks Meta to take them out.
Yeah. Like, as an example, do 1 damage to Wolverine, then watch a Wendigo go all over him.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pretty. And that's like a 15-point figure. He's going to charge, flurry, finish up with a second attack or a third attack because he moved, and then he's going to sidestep and then attack again.
I mean, with the right amount of perplexes and probs, you could kill him with Walking Woods.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to flurry, right? And they just keep hitting him and popping him to... Because the stop clicks are close together, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Stop clicks is one of the biggest problems that stop clicks has always had is follow-up. Like, if you can get him to a stop click and then attack again... What good was the stop click, right? So,
like, Wolverine survives in this environment because you've got limited sources of perplex, and you've got no natural probs.
Almost
right?
No flurry.
So it's already hard enough to be getting the attack rolls in, and no way of re-rolling those attack rolls without using theme probs. Well, now we've already got a limited number of figures in the set, a whole bunch who don't have willpower that you don't want to be giving theme probs to. It's just a perfect storm for that Wolverine is really what it ended up being.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Joseph Pangracio. WWE Clicks. Great set or greatest set? Greatest set ever. I'm just excited for the theming of it. I'm excited for the fact that they made, like, if we go back in time and go back to Street Fighter, which is similarly designed, and it's like everything's close combat focused, but it still gets blown out of the water for being ranged. It kind of they gave WWE a chance to not just get popped out of the water and be played, which I think is cool. I mean, I'm obviously a fan of wrestling. Thanks, Steve, by the way, for the for the Finn Balor. I love when stuff like this kind of just gets given to us. Amber from Steve also gave Amber a cool cross-stitched Wolverine last time we saw him. So anyway, WWE is exciting to me because I'm a big wrestling geek. So, Mike,
as someone who's not completely biased, I will say this: the sculpts look nice. I loved wrestling back in the day. I was a fan of a lot of these characters that are actually still around now. So I can definitely say that I like the way the sculpts look, like the Triple H with the water coming out, or the Shawn Michaels in the pose down in front of the fireworks. Those are great sculpts. They're dynamic sculpts.
So you're saying you think he's cute?
Yeah.
You think he's sexy?
Yeah. He's big time sexy. I will say that I think that they did a really smart job with the way that they did this set in coming up with these new powers that sort of emphasize the characters. The way that they did it by making them circular versus square in the dial was a smart design format idea, because then you didn't have to really change too much, and the figures fit into the overall environment more seamlessly. So I definitely think that there's a lot of really good design thoughts that went into this set, and coming up with a set that both lives on its own and integrates into the existing game, probably better than they've ever done with any non-DC or Marvel property. Non-superhero property really is probably a better statement. I think that they should have looked at this a long time ago for a Street Fighter, for Star Trek, for Turtles, any of those sets. I think they should have considered some of these options maybe. So as a non-wrestling fan, I think that they did a really, really good job with the set, and they actually make me very, very tempted to break my my rules about non-superhero related HeroClix stuff. So congrats, WizKid.
Richard Leo had a follow-up question. Cassandra Nova, great super rare or the silver bullet for all WWE clicks? I'm trying to see how she does that. Let's see. When she uses mind control, each character she hit resolution, she gets an approved token. Otherwise, you get a rejected token. Characters one or more approved tokens. I mean, the problem is she's got to use the mind control and get a range attack against them, which is hard to do if they're on click one. Close attack. Oh, okay, here it is. But she only takes a maximum of one from close attacks. There it is. There's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just hard to deal with.
Tell me how she does in a submission hold. Once I immobilize her with just a submission hold. Ask her, ref. Every time I use submission hold, I'm gonna scream. Ask him. All right. All right, Michael Fedor, do you remember the movie by the late Bernie Mac called Mr. 3000? Can we call you Mr. and Mrs. 3000?
I do remember the movie. He was a baseball player. He was trying to get to 3,000 hits.
Right.
Retired from baseball. He brought it back. I'm a big Bernie Mac fan. I love Bernie Mac.
There we go. Aries Edge says no because Amber's not washed up, but I am.
Ouch.
I agree.
Ouch. Hey, it's better to be a has-been than a never was been.
Exactly. All right, next up, Chris Stockhouse. Just wondered what your thoughts are on the pauper circuit allowing WWE and the not primes from Avengers Infinity and X-Men animated series, the Space Knights and the Danger Rooms. And as we just described, yes, that's a thing that they're allowing. Where do I stand on this? I don't know who made the decision. I personally don't agree with the decision, just because of the spirit of the pauper format. Because oftentimes the spirit of this sort of format stems to a certain degree on what the secondary market value on these figures comes from. There's anomalies when you create these formats where certain card characters will spike in price, driven up by the format. I of course am mentioning this because in Magic the Gathering this happens where a common card is good both in the game, in the format, and then becomes sought after for both and becomes an $8 common. That's a shame. That happens, but it's the exception more than the rule. But when I see the WWE figures at a MSRP of $8.99 US, that's a lot to pay for a single figure. That's how much we pay for a pack, and you're expecting people to pay that for one. So I feel like that goes against the spirit of the pauper format, while at the same time, but I say like starters and fast forces should be part of it because that's something we should all be getting. People should be learning how to play the game. People should be updating their rules. People should have the WWE pack. So I feel like the starters and the mixed match challenge should, to a certain degree, be part of it. So I'm of both. I'm for and against it. I understand because WWE is going to be off the shelf and every figure I want is going to be the one I buy. Kind of stays in that idea of availability, but the cost factor just kind of steps out of the spirit of it, along with the fact that, you know, you got these common and uncommon prime rarity figures, which are literally one per case. It's basically a chase rarity. I feel like that is against the spirit of pauper as well. That is my opinion. Mike, what is your opinion?
I agree on the WWE stuff. I think that the price point on those figures does feel off. I don't think as many people will necessarily pick up those figures because of that price point, because of some of the limitations that they have in terms of how they fit into HeroClix. And as such, they're not really going to be as common. The Danger Room ones, I have to admit, I don't think that they are really a prime rarity. I mean, I picked up a brick the other day and got both of them in it, in the one brick, both the Magneto and the Sabretooth. And I already have 2 of each now. So they don't feel like they're coming out as rare. But I do agree again, if we're saying that primes aren't included, why is it like primes aren't included, but these primes that aren't primes are? It starts to become that God, it starts to become like the English language. I before E, except after C, and about 20 other exceptions to the rule that basically make the rule null and void to begin with. So, slippery slope. I think they should have stayed how it was. I think people would have been okay with WWE not being in it. I think we all could have lived through that,
Like,
per se.
but would you have been okay if like the Rock and Sock Connection and the Mixed Match Challenge?
Yeah, of course. Because those are, again, it's a starter, and the price point on that for the number of figures and what you get out of it makes sense. But an individual figure at $8-9 doesn't feel like anything you would ever spend on a common or an uncommon in the secondary market of HeroClix, right? Other than a prime.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know why they made the choice. I'm still really surprised by the Danger Room one. I assumed that those figures wouldn't be allowed in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, in one way, I'm excited because that just made a team possibility that I had thought of come back to life again.
Yep.
Yeah, I think both that Magneto and that Sabretooth can totally wreck in this format.
And be part of, I don't know, Brotherhood of Mutants theme team.
Oh, yeah. Like, we already know that's good. So... don't necessarily agree with it. Will I exploit it? Most likely. Most likely.
Now, if anybody's questioning as to the rarity, the reason it kind of came out that they're considered prime rarity, they were included in the Prime Chase Rare prize that was given out in relation to X-Men anime. That's actually a very big collection, full Chase Prime set, when you consider that you have all 4 of the prime rarity low guys in the 3 Danger Room guys and Morph. You have 3 prime colossals, and then you have the 6 chases in the set. I thought that was kind of super awesome.
Yeah, it looked pretty sweet.
All right, so we move now to the chat. Excuse me. Ricky Yell, what's up with the ruling at Worlds that you could use TK to make an object attack with an indestructible special object without a target to poof said object? That doesn't sound right. If you don't have a target, aren't you just moving an object with TK? I think I have a pack hand near here.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I want to point this out. The judges at Worlds are never infallible. They're very rarely infallible, and complicated questions do.
Because there could have been a lot of things to that. There could have been a lot more scenario to that we know. Because as far as I know, with the way rulings are currently, you can't use an object in an object attack on like another object. Like you can't pick up a heavy object and throw it at a wall to damage a wall.
So it allows the use of a range object action or to place the object. But a range object action, my understanding here, is that you have to actually make an attack. Minimum range checks this character holding an object with a regular range attack, targeting a single character. That doesn't sound like it was a correct ruling. So
yes, based upon the way that you are asking the question, no, it is incorrect. You need a target to be able to TK the object in a range object attack.
So that sounds like a ruling made possibly incorrectly, but I don't know, man. Sometimes these things get screwed up and then they become the gospel of the rule, and I kind of turn around and go, what? So, all right, there was another question here. Aaron Pellet, I feel new to the channel, new to the group. He wants to know if DC is any good, and 9 times out of 10 that is set dependent. So like as an example, there's always good figures in just about every set, but I think. And there's a number of really good figures in Rebirth if you're looking in competitive games. It really depends on what you like. What do you think, Mike?
It was funny for the longest time. It seemed like DC sets were the more overpowered sets.
Right?
Like you'd have a bunch of Marvel sets, and then they'd drop a DC set with like Kingdom Come figures or something like that, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, man! They really love DC." I wonder if that was more just because they don't get to put out as many DC sets because of all the licensing complications or whatever. I thought that's maybe why that actually happened. It's like, well, wait, if we do one DC set for every like 3 to 4 Marvel sets, we better put some, choice figures in here to make people excited. Yeah, exactly. So is DC any good? Sure. There's been lots of great DC figures over the years. There's been broken figures. There's stuff out there of different rarities. I love the rare Raven from Rebirth. I think that's a fantastic figure, both on a mystical theme team or a monster theme team. She's awesome. So yeah, DC's great. There's lots of great stuff. I think we're inundated with Marvel, so it's very hard to see it, and especially the past couple of Marvel sets that have all been like Cosmic World. The Rebirth set really didn't have a lot of cosmic in it. It gave us Mr. Oz, who is a very meta piece, but there was not anywhere as much cosmic in Rebirth. Tons of cosmic in Black Panther and the Illuminati, tons of in Avengers and Infinity. So I think probably your question is more based upon the current trend right now, which is, oh my God, look at all this Marvel. Why does anybody use DC? There's still lots of good stuff in DC.
I'm going to make an unpopular opinion. I think DC should do one of these mega figure every booster sets soon. Like, I think it would be cool. There's a lot of options in DC, and I don't want it all kind of limited to just con stuff. There's like, it's been a long time since we had camo, and let's all be honest, that was crap. I want my camo.
See, I've always wondered about that. Why is it camo? Why isn't it chemo?
Because it sounds depressing, I guess.
No, but think about it, right? That really should be chemo.
Well, because that's how like chemo is.
That's the well.
But it's the idea of like he's spilling chemicals.
I know, but still.
It's
anyway.
like, and it's like, oh no, here comes chemo. Wait, are you sick? Are you not feeling well?
But that is fearful. No one's excited when they hear "here comes chemo."
You're right, but yeah, it's so my unpopular opinion is I really hope that someday we do get a DC set that is gimmicked like the Avengers Infinity and X-Men set have been. We can get Batmobiles. All kinds of bat vehicles. We did it in the Batman set. Let's not do it in Super Boosters. So, yeah. So in general, DC does come up with a lot of cool stuff. Anything named Shazam or Black Adam is usually super playable and good too, right? So they really, ever since George Massey made a Black Adam, they've really done that character justice. They're like, hey, he's kind of onto something with this, isn't he? I love when that catches on. Happy Little Hero Clips wants to know if our stores used the suggested format for X-Men Regenesis. My store, we're upping the points a little because they went with 200, 250, 300. I want to see if a 400 point you've collected for the month or for the whole span of it works out. I don't know if it will or not.
Yeah, it works out to 3 Wolverines. That's what that works out to. It works out to 3 Wolverines and a low point beast. And no fun for anybody. So yeah, the I don't know what we'll do, like you said, at Comic Warehouse for month 3, but CBA we did 200, 300, and 400.
Yeah, we're doing 400 for the last month of Comic Book Warehouse.
So I think that's a better idea.
Sorry, I tried to save the format, guys. It didn't work. The format was too limited as it was.
Yeah.
All right. I believe That is it. Richard Medina does point out that the Chase Prime set is awesome. I think that's a little bit of a humble brag there. But congrats. I think he was up there in singles. When you're in the losers bracket, it's hard to see all the way up there.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add?
Can't see past our bitterness.
Yeah, exactly. Can't see past that low scoring 3 and 2. Anything you wanted to add before we go?
No, just once again, I want to say what a great time it was in Memphis. Thanks again to WizKids. Thanks again to everybody who comes out to the event, all the great players. I had so many great games, so many people coming up and talking about the show and saying things that they love about the show. You guys are fantastic. I had so many great battle royals with people, and what an amazing experience. Definitely, please always come up and say hello if you're fans of the show. We love it, and we love getting the opportunity to play games with you guys as well because we love this game. So,
but stop using your fandom to play the Professor X Colossus. I'm going to stop shaking hands if you guys keep doing that.
No. The real trick is pretend you're giving back your room key.
That one was a good one. I got to give you that one. One last question snuck in there. We'll go with it. That was a statement. Do you think Watchmen or even the Doomsday Clock figures will be represented in HeroClix again? They're my favorite comic characters, and I would love to see them in modern age. I mean, I don't see why not. They're part of DC canon now, right?
Yeah, anything's possible, and DC probably could use a larger pool from what they always seem to pull from.
I would like to see, I'd like to go a little beyond Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, or actually just dive more into Wonder Woman when you do put Wonder Woman's name on the set.
Whoa, phrasing.
Nope, I meant what I said. All right, so once again, I want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/madeofclicks. You guys are awesome, and I love all of the support that you give us. So once again, that's rescheduled October 13th. And to the next patron hangout, but any patron level also gets you access to our patron Discord. We goof around a lot in there, share our teams, talk about dumb ideas that we all have, and just share strategies. It's a great welcoming community. New and old players are in there, so have a ton of fun with that. I'm super excited for Fantastic Four. How excited? I'm this excited. So you're excited too, Rick? Right?
Oh yeah, I was pretty surprised to see those pictures. I didn't think that was really coming, but I look forward to it.
Hype. Also want to thank our longtime sponsors over MajesticCCG.com. $3 a month to join the Apex Insiders gets you access to the great minds of the games of HeroClix. Check them out. They have Isaac's run through of his World Championship win. Once again, congrats to you, Isaac, for winning. You're so young, and you're going to kill us all for years. Mike, thank you very much. But States is around the corner. It's time to start building those pauper teams. Get your opponents across the table from you and get some practice in, because practice will make your teams better. Have a good night, everybody.